Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It is Dr. Jan Fortman with the Relationship Matters TV show. I hope everyone is having a beautiful, blessed morning, afternoon, or evening. I still would like all of you to remember and send prayers to the people in North Carolina and in Florida and even in Mexico. I found out that Cancun is practically destroyed. So wherever those hurricanes are, tornadoes are, send your prayers and send your donations because they need everything, everything, anything that you can think of that you use or your kids use or whoever, any you from the tip of your toes to the top of your head, everything, they need everything. So if you can, send donations, send money. I don't, you try to be politically correct and you don't want to go in Facebook jail, but I think safely I can say the Red Cross, because I don't know any others, but I know about Red Cross. So let's get started. I have a guest on today that I know this is going to be a very interesting show. She does something that I had never heard of before, and we are going to talk about it. So I want to introduce her to you first. Her name is, and I hope I pronounce her name right, it's Judy Micale or Micale. She is an author, a mentor, a speaker, and a professionally credentialed coach through the International Coach Federation. She's been coaching for over 13 years and she has clients all over the globe. Her additional certifications are she's a certified mindfulness mentor, a conscious business coach, a certified trainer for Canfield's, that's Jack Canfield's, Principles of Success. She's a certified facilitator for appreciation in the workforce, which we all need. She is a compassion fatigue educator, and that's what we're really going to talk about because I never heard of that. She's also a certified addiction prevention professional and certified addiction professional. Her tagline, which I love, is communication plus compassion equals change in today's world and workforce. So now let me say this. If you want to move forward and you're feeling stuck, this is the person that you want to meet. And you're going to meet her right now, right this very moment. So I'd like to bring to you, without further ado, as they say, Judy Micale. Hi, Judy.
Hello. It's so good to see you again. And I just love your smile. And the introduction was phenomenal as far as everything that is in your introduction, the respect and the differences and all of that. It's a beautiful way to look at the world because we really are interconnected and we have to learn how to understand and appreciate each other wherever we're at.
You know what? When I grow up, I want to be just like you. So, Judy, I am going to jump right into this because you talk about compassion fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
What is compassion fatigue?
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of back history on it. They actually started studying this back in the 1950s with nurses. So originally, when they diagnosed or worked with people around this, it was because they were working with traumatized victims or patients. And they were putting so much of themselves into the work that they found that they weren't burnt out because they really wanted to continue to do their work, but they were finding other symptoms, like they were exhausted or they just couldn't recharge their own batteries. So when you really think about it, it's been studied for a long, long time, from the 1950s up to today. I started really paying attention to it. I was doing training on it over 15 years ago, but it popped back up again during COVID, because you not only saw it with the individuals who were working in the hospitals, but you saw it with family members, and you saw it in the workforce where team leaders were just like, I'm exhausted all the time. And I don't know. I'm just, and I'm like, what are you doing for your own self-care? Because that's true remedy for compassion fatigue. I tell people, if the difference between compassion fatigue and burnout is a simple question.
And I was going to ask that question.
It's a real simple question. If you can say, do I love my job and what I'm doing? And you say yes, or
Okay.
yes, but you're in compassion fatigue, if you have all those other symptoms that are going on. But if you're like, no, I'm done, I've had it, you have hit burnout. That is when you have to really dive deeper, probably do some therapy and things along those lines. With compassion fatigue, though, you could work with a coach, or you could work with somebody else. Some of the other things that'll come up with them is they'll have apathy, or they'll get, they're just like, yeah, whatever. I talk about compassionate leadership is simply working with an individual, and instead of fixing it for them, you empower them. So if they come to you with a problem, you're like, okay, I hear what you're saying. You have the empathy piece with them. You don't go down the sympathy rabbit hole, because that just drags you with them. You say, that's interesting. What would you like to do about that? That's a compassionate leader. Where when we were coming up, we had the industrial leaderships where they would just come in and tell you what to do, how to do it, and get it done, type thing. But in today's workforce, it's totally different. And that's where I was finding a lot of our leaders were getting dragged into, my team, they came and, their father is in the hospital, or somebody else is ill. And I'm like, okay, you got to draw that line. You have to have your own boundaries. And if you don't create those boundaries, then you get sucked in to that sympathy rabbit hole. And then you start getting depleted even faster. So one of my questions I always ask people is, think of it like a fuel tank. If you're full or overflowing, you can take care of other people. But if you're going down that rabbit hole and you're starting to see that your tank is going down, or you're on fumes, and I'll ask a lot of people, where are you at? If you were to look at a gas gauge, where are you at mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in all areas of your life? And really start looking at that gauge. And how can you start fueling your own tank? What is it that feeds your soul?
Okay. So you saw it, so you saw it, in the nursing industry, but what made you want to become a facilitator at this? We see it and we feel it. But so what made you want to focus on that, as a facilitator and a coach?
So 15 years ago, I was working for a different company, and I was working and training behavioral health, substance abuse providers on evidence-based practices.
Okay.
There's that little adage of, you teach what you need to learn.
Yeah.
And I was at that place. And so I had started doing the research, and I ran into it at the Florida State University, where they had an institute where they were teaching classes on it. And I started taking the classes, and I was like, oh, this is so needed in the field where I'm working.
Okay.
Well, then ironically, or again, you learn what you're going to need. 3 years later, I was taking care of my mom full time. She had open heart surgery, melanoma, and pneumonia, all within 3 weeks. And then I was I was in the throes of starting to learn about coaching and what does that mean and look like. And I was taking courses and I was laid off from my position at that time. And it worked out beautifully because I was I was in the throes of taking care of my mom. And so the 10 years that I was taking care of her, the things that I had taught the 5 years before that were all pulled forward for me on how do I take better care of myself so that I can take care of her, my stepdad. My stepdad passed away, and then my sister passed away, and it
Mm,
was just my mom and I. And
okay.
she lived until she was 91.
Oh, wow.
She bowled up till she was 87 years old. Um, and this was all while she was still living with me and I was still taking care of her. And she was a beautiful role model. And she passed in October of 2020. And if I hadn't had that skill set of knowing how to increase gratitude in my day-to-day life, like I've lived and taught about gratitude for 15 years, I incorporate that right into the compassion fatigue education. Um, how important it is to take that 15 minutes during the morning and just focus on breathing and practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness doesn't have to be where you sit and go, oh, or anything like that. Mindfulness can be brushing your teeth and aware of every tooth as you're brushing it.
Mhm.
Being present with putting on your pants. If you're so autopilot, you don't even know what leg you put your foot in your pants first. I challenge you to change it up and really focus on putting your leg in the other hole in the morning. So if
Wait,
you're
wait, I can do that, and I don't know I'm doing it.
but if you're a righty, switch it to the
My
left.
mind is someplace else, and it's like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, I put my leg in the wrong. But you're saying do it on purpose.
Yeah. So you're
Okay.
paying attention, you're getting present. And those are
Okay.
all just simple little tools that you can do. And the best gift that I give anybody that I'm working with is the 4 breaths. And they're a beautiful gift that you can give yourself at any point in time. Because when we're in crisis or we're in chaos, we either do shallow breathing or we stop breathing. And we're not even aware that we haven't stopped breathing until we go, I wasn't breathing even. So 4 breaths is stop everything that you're doing and take a breath. And then the second breath is pause, what I call the monkey brain, when we're jumping from one thought to the next thought and we're busy and everything, which by the way, busy is a 4-letter word in my world. So pause that monkey brain and take a breath.
Okay.
The third one is you take a breath in and you just honor the fact that you can breathe.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is receive. So as you take in that deep breath, where are you still feeling the pressure and the stress?
Okay.
For me, I feel it here or I feel it in my shoulders. So when you're releasing that breath, you're receiving, you're pulling it in. And when you release it, you're pushing out as much as you can of that stress.
Mm.
And then you reboot. So you can do that before a meeting. If you're nervous about a meeting that you're going into, you can do that if you're in the hospital taking care of somebody and the doctor's coming in and you're like starting to get amped up. Just do your breath, 4 breaths. It's great for a doctor's office too before you get your blood pressure taken.
You know what? Now that's a good one. Because when I first go in, it's like, well, we're gonna take it again.
Yeah.
In a little while, because like you say, even though you think you're relaxed, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, even you just, well, I'm just going in for my annual, and I feel fine, but still in awe. But let me ask you this. So you saw this compassion fatigue with nurses. Do you see it in other industries?
Mm-hmm.
Other than industries, well, just other industries, other than industries where um, you where people are working where they have to have empathy, so to speak, like nurses, doctors, coaches.
And those are all ones. And I've actually had individuals brainstorm where else you would find it, dentists, funeral directors, anything like that. But what I found and why I talk about it so much now is in the corporate world, working with team leaders. It was studied by for nurses and doctors originally, but what I'm seeing is it's in the regular workforce now. Because when COVID came through 4 or 5 years ago, that's when they started seeing, people were getting ill or they were suddenly thrown into a different atmosphere of remote work. And what do we do with this? And how do we connect? So I was finding a lot of the compassion fatigue symptoms were coming up. So that's when I started working with people around mindfulness practices. What is compassionate leadership? How can you bring that into your teams? How can you just give yourself a break from having meeting fatigue? The individuals I work with today in the corporate world, I mean, think about it. They meet to talk about the meeting that they're going to meet
Yeah,
about.
they meet to meet. Right. Meet to meet.
So let's cut out some of those meetings and give ourselves a break. Or some of the places that I've worked with, they're like trying to do no meeting Friday so that you can really focus and catch up on your work. Or other places have said, we're going to do a reboot in the middle of the week on hump day. We're going to only do half days where you have meetings, and the other half you focus on what is it that you need to get done for the rest of the week. So there's different ways that you can bring it into the workforce. And that's a big one, is especially in today's world, working with team leaders in the corporate world. You're seeing a lot of, because they care. They care about their teams. They care about the people that work for them. And they really want them to have the best that they can give them. And again, when I'm talking to a team leader, I'm asking them, what are you doing to fuel your own tank so that you can feed those on your team?
So when you're working with these team leaders on compassion fatigue, that means that you yourself, I guess, are empathizing. And so when you're working with the teams, do you like, okay, let me do the four things? In other words, do you get compassion fatigue yourself when you're working with individuals?
Not anymore, because I've
Oh,
learned how to set boundaries.
okay,
And
okay,
I have hard, fast boundaries that I
okay,
don't go past. I have, I call them sacred Sundays. That means that I'm not online. I don't
okay,
open my computer at all on a Sunday. Don't even try to reach out to me as far as technology, other than maybe a phone call. I will occasionally do that. But I also set up times where I will have complete shutdown and technology break for an entire weekend.
okay,
Because I do all my coaching virtually, and I work with people completely virtually. So this screen can
okay,
get a little overpowering if you don't learn how to shut it off. So I have set rules. By 5 o'clock on most nights, I am off the computer.
okay,
The computer is closed and I am doing something else. I'm painting, I'm writing, I'm doing something that recharges my own battery, because the next day I've got a full docket of coaching. And I
okay,
know, I'm averaging 5 to 7 calls a day at
okay.
30 minutes each. So that's a lot of calls in one day. So if I have a big agenda like that,
Mhm.
the computer's off at the nighttime. So learning how to set those boundaries and what they mean for you. I ask my team leaders when they're working with their teams, don't send an email past 7 p.m. If you have to communicate with somebody after 7 p.m., then it better be life or death. Let's look at it realistically. Tomorrow
Okay.
is another day. If you feel like you really need to get this email at least off your mind so you can shut down and go to sleep tonight,
Mhm.
then put it in the draft form and send it out tomorrow morning, or schedule it for tomorrow morning. There's all those wonderful techniques that we can use in today's world. But don't be at 11 o'clock at night sending off an email or a text message to somebody, because that's disrespecting them. And that was one of the words that came up on your entry, was respect. And that's what this is about. Not only respecting yourself, but respecting those that you work with. So I think that's really important.
So I know you went through this with your mom, but let's say in your personal life, um, and I was talking with someone today, and we were both saying how we couldn't sleep because of, and I guess you would call it compassion fatigue in a sense, because we were worried about and empathizing because of someone else's drama,
Mm-hmm.
someone else's problem. And I said to her, we need a vacation. So in your personal life, how do you know? And I know you said this earlier, but how do you know when you it's not burnout, but it's just compassion fatigue, especially in your personal life, dealing with friends, dealing with uh let's say care being a caregiver. How do you how do you know the difference, and how do you keep from just throwing up your hands and saying, you know what, forget it?
Well, let's face it, we're humans. There's going to be days when we're going to want to throw up our hands and just walk away from it. Um, the 4 breaths helps a lot in that. Another one that I'll do is a walking meditation, where I, instead of just walking down the hall to get a cup of coffee or walking down the hall to get my drink, I'm walking down the hall and I'm paying attention to how my foot is hitting the floor. And I'm hyper focused on, what does that do for that muscle in the leg? What am I feeling as I'm doing this step? Am I feeling it in my heel? Where am I feeling it in my foot? And again, that gets you off of the thing. I've mentored another sleep coach at one point, and she said to help us sleep at night, I call it the Scarlett O'Hara syndrome, is what it is. She said
Okay.
to write down, physically, write down what's keeping you up. So you can do it in bullet form. It doesn't have to be complete sentences. It could be, you know, gee, tomorrow I've got to go to the grocery store and I've got to pick up these things, and I'm, just write a quick to-do list. But here's the key. Once you're done writing it down physically, putting it on a paper and pen. So I have a paper and pen by my bed now because of this. Then you say out loud, and sometimes we have partner in our bed, so we're not going to yell it out or anything like that. But you simply say, I'll take care of that tomorrow. It,
Okay.
it shuts something off in your brain. I didn't believe it either until I did it. I sat down one night and I was like, boy, I'm really like caught up in this drama triangle, and why am I? And so I just kind of jotted down a few things. Well, what do I need to do to let go of that? And I just jotted a few of those things down. And I thought, okay, I can take care of that tomorrow. And I said that like that. And I laid down and I was out within 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh, I'm gonna try that.
I've done it when I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. How many times have we woke up in the middle of the
Oh
night
my
and said,
God.
oh,
Yeah. Or you
I
just things are just going through your head. Okay, I gotta do this. I need to do this. What if I got to do this?
paper and pen by your bed, write it down. These are the things I've got to do. Okay, I know I've got to do those tomorrow. I've got them right there. I'll take care of that tomorrow. Helps your
Okay.
brain shut down. It's a neuro, and I actually took a neurodiversity and neuroscience class, and that was one of the things they actually talked about. There's a connection of that physical writing. Don't turn your phone on because the blue light will make you think you're awake. It's
Yeah.
got to be a paper and pen or in some way, shape, or form. And there's that neural pathway from that handwriting that goes right up into the brain, and it just connects with the brain. And there's a whole different arena around it. So it's really interesting when you think about there's actual science that backs it up as well. It's not just somebody saying it to make them feel better, but there's a science behind it as well.
Okay. I'm going to try that because yes, it. my wake up time in the middle of the night is 3:30 a.m. Get up, go to the bathroom, get back into bed. Now everything is going through my head. Oh, I am going to try that. So, Judy, I got to take a couple of commercials and I have a couple of questions that came in. And
Okay.
so, soon as we get back, going to shoot you these questions.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Okay. So, don't go anywhere. So, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with it, Judy. And if you have a question, you have a comment, don't hesitate, put it in the chat. So we will be right back. We are back with Judy Micale. And so, Judy, this is a question that came in. Staying in the moment is a process of change. What steps could you offer to help people get there?
I think the first piece is recognition and awareness.
Okay.
And that is simply just doing that stop, whatever you're doing, and really start looking at what is it that you want to change? How do you want to change it? Everybody's unique and different. I had a mentor, a mindfulness mentor that I've worked with for many years, and he gave me a beautiful exercise. He was the one that actually told me to switch hands while you're brushing your teeth. And that forces you to stay in the moment because you've always brushed with I always brush with my right hand. You have to all of a sudden start using your left hand to try and brush your teeth. That's a very interesting experience, number one. Number two, you're going to get it all over your face at first until you start, but it also makes you aware of what you're doing. He also was the one that suggested pay attention to what leg you put into into your pants the first thing in the morning, and then
Yeah.
switch it because that makes you more conscious and aware. One that I've done with couples that have worked that they always sleep on the same side of the bed. Have them switch.
Go ahead.
Makes you totally aware.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
I used to, when I was taking care of my mom, and as she got older and towards the end, she needed help putting her pants on. Well, she would do her left leg first, and I'm on right leg first. So she would always tap me on the head, my other leg. I'd be like, oh. So it's learning those little things, and they're small things, but they're beautiful ways to, kind of really start focusing in. It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, what hand do you use to open the door? Switch your hand that opens the door.
Okay.
Makes you more aware when you're walking to that door.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be huge.
Yeah, because it's huge with me changing the size of it. I don't know. I probably will. Thinking I'm on my side. although I
That's
do wait, although I do tell my husband that both sides are my side, but I have a preferred. So
I love
anyway, but I see what you're saying because that forces you to be in the now.
it.
To,
Yeah.
it forces you to be in the now. I can see that. I can see that. I really like that. I'm going to definitely do the open the door with my left hand. What am I holding up my? Yeah, and also putting my pants on, trying my I usually do my left leg first. So doing my right leg first. Like you said, being in the now. Because like I said, you when you said about being in the now, I know I'm not in the now when you're doing things automatically and you
Mhm.
don't know how you got there. It's just like driving.
Yes.
You reach your destination and you don't really remember how you got there because you weren't in the now.
Yeah. That's a beautiful, beautiful example of it. And how many times have we done that as drivers?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Distracted. We're just like, oh, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that compassion fatigue, like I had said earlier, I had never heard of that, but I can see how we get into that, how that can happen. And I know I took care of my mom, and like you said that because you have so much empathy and sympathy,
Mhm.
and you do get fatigued, and sometimes people feel guilty
Mhm.
when they have compassion fatigue. So do you work with people who have that, who feel guilty because they have that?
That's an interesting question because when I look at it, I always come back with, why are you feeling guilty? Is it because you're trying to fix that individual? We can't fix or change anybody. The only person that we can fix or change is ourselves and how we react. So
Mhm.
the running joke with my mom and I, because we had a great relationships, but there were moments where I would get frustrated. I'm human, right?
Mhm.
I remember one time we were driving and I was driving her somewhere and she was on her little rampage and I just went, and I just took a breath and she said, there she goes breathing again. And I just started to laugh because I was like, I can't even breathe. Which then made her laugh because she was like, I guess you have to breathe, huh? But you do it in such a way that is like this sigh.
Now my mother used to the neighbor across the hall asked her, why is it that when your son leaves your apartment, I can hear him going, oh. But like you said, yeah, it's that side. So something came in another from Sandy Barney, and she says, "Oh, I recite things like prayers, poems. Oh, I call names of loved ones that's not here with me anymore." Wow. Okay.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That is beautiful. So now, in your bio, you said something about addiction. Does that have anything to do with uh, uh, compassion fatigue?
Well, with addiction professionals, individuals who work in the field in
Okay.
behavioral health, that area, that was one of the many chapters of my world, and that's where I began opening the doors. And you'll find it too. Compassion fatigue is with those individuals that are helping others during the hurricane, or there's because they're dealing with trauma, they're dealing with all of those moments, and so there's that. But there's a poem or a saying by Rhonda Byrne that I absolutely love. And when I do the trainings for individuals that I go and do these in companies, and I'm actually getting ready to do some 3 or 4 website webinars on it in the coming months around compassion fatigue. But I love putting this one in. It's about giving, and we're, in order to give completely, you have to also be able to receive from others.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off with giving opens up the door to receiving. You have so many opportunities to give every day. Give kind words, give a smile, give appreciation and love, give compliments. You can give courtesy to other motorists while you're driving. You can give a smile to the car parking attendant. You can give a warm greeting to the newspaper stand person or the person who makes your coffee in the morning. You can give by allowing a stranger to go ahead of you in an elevator. And you can give by asking which floor they're going to and pressing the button for them. If someone drops something, you can give them a helping hand and pick it up for them. You can give someone a warm embrace, and you can give appreciation and encouragement to everyone. There's so many opportunities for you to give and thereby open the door to receiving. And that's by Rhonda Byrne, who wrote The Secret. And I just love that whole component of, part of it is learning how to incorporate gratitude every single day. I shared with you earlier when we were talking that a colleague of mine had posted that she doesn't have water that she can use. She's actually has to go and get the water to be able to wash her dishes and brush her teeth and
Yeah.
everything in because of the hurricanes. But she was grateful because she had power, and she was grateful because she had internet service. And so there's things that we can look at every single day. We can wake up and we may be like waking up on the wrong side of the bed and be a little grumpy when we wake up. That's when you can take that pause and say, what am I grateful for? I can turn on electricity.
Yeah.
I have running water and I can take a shower. I don't hurt like I did yesterday. I have a dog that makes me laugh and giggle because she does little antics. So we can focus on something small, just
Mm-hmm.
that simple shift of figuring out what we're grateful for. It doesn't have to be big. It can be just simply, I have a pencil and I can write. I know how to write. That's a beautiful gift. Not everybody has that gift.
Very
So
true.
bringing it back down to the things that are the simpler things in life, that kiss is a beautiful thing. Keep it simple. Let's keep it simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, that brings you into the now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I remember this woman was talking, and she said, I was at the beautician, and I'm sitting there and I'm complaining to this woman who was sitting next in a chair next to me about how my legs were hurting and my knees were hurting. And the woman had, like, a covering or blanket or whatever over her. And the woman was just saying, oh yeah, and she was saying, yeah, my knees and my legs hurt. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So when the woman finished, the beautician brought over a wheelchair, and the woman didn't have any legs.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she never forgot that. And that was
Mm-hmm.
her thing about always being grateful. Always being grateful. So now you have a book. Let's talk about your book, 31 Daily Inspirations for Caregivers. One day, one breath, one step at a time. So, when did you write this book? How can we get this book? What made you write this book?
I wrote it in 2013, and it
Okay.
was during the time that I was taking care of my mom.
Okay.
And I had just gone through the pneumonia, melanoma, and she was getting ready to do open heart surgery. And I was sitting there and I was writing affirmations to myself, simple affirmations every single day. And that's what this is, are the quotes that I was writing to myself. But how it came to be is I had wished that I'd had just one book. This is a journal book. It's not a book. Like, you're not going to pick it up and there's
Okay.
going to be huge stories or anything like that. It's going to be one page where it has a quote, and then I share a little bit about that quote. And then I say something like, today, think about keeping a memory album. Take
Okay.
snapshots throughout the day so that you can have it for your memory album later in life.
Okay.
And then you have 3 pages that are blank after that one page. And that's because I wanted to be able to take doctor's notes. I wanted to be able to write my own feelings down. I wanted to have that time. So I give that gift to those individuals that are caregivers where they could take this book. I had somebody last year bought this book, and he messaged me and said, "Thank you for this gift, because I took so many doctor's notes because there's 3 or 4 of us that are taking care of this individual. And so we just kept the notes of what had happened and who had said what and when, so that the next person came in, they could pick it up and they could read the notes, and then they could read the inspiration quote for themselves that day. And that's how they just kept it going for the time that they were taking care of that individual, which I thought was really a unique way of using this."
Yeah, yeah. And so if we would like to purchase this journal,
Mhm.
how do we get it?
Go on Amazon. It's on there. They have a Kindle version, which I don't recommend because you can't really write in a Kindle unless you have the
Sure.
scribe. But I also have the paperback version on there.
Okay. 31 daily inspirations for caregivers. Oh, that's great because I know a few caregivers who are taking care of their moms right now.
Yeah.
Right now. So Judy, let's see, were there any other questions that came in? No. So, well, we can go how if anyone wants to reach you and they really want to talk with you or bring their company in with you. So, how can they reach you?
It's simply judymicale.com. And on there, there's a way that you can connect and get a free goal worksheet where you can sign up for a newsletter that way. And there's also a tab in there if you would like to set up a consult call with me for 15 minutes, you can get that. So you can do that way. Or as you're scrolling across, there's my email. Go ahead and email me. I will tell you this, I have boundaries around my email. I
Not
only
after. Wait a minute. Not after 5 o'clock. Never on a Sunday.
and I only check it 3 times a day.
You
So
know what? I think that is wonderful. 3 times a day. OMG. So how long do you stay on it?
I managed to keep it at a 15-minute window each time. And I never open it first thing in the morning. I always wait until at least 10 o'clock in the morning before I open up my email. And then I do a 15-minute, because you can just scan through. Yeah, star this. I'm going to have to respond to that, or whatever it is that you would like, and then so I just simply do it that way. And then I check it again, usually after lunch. And then just before the end of the day, about 4 o'clock, I'll check it one more time.
What? OMG. I get on my email and it's like, okay, I'm going to just be on here for 15 minutes. I look up 45 minutes later. I'm still clickety, 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 clickety.
Set your alarm on set your timer.
Wait a minute. And I have one. Oops, I just right here.
There you go.
And I need to set it. So Sandy Barney Ennis offered some. She said, read the poem, Our Deepest Fear, Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech. Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate that.
I'm writing it down. I'll look at
Okay.
it tomorrow.
Okay. So, Judy, let me put your information back here, up here. So, if anyone, now, how do you pronounce your last name?
Macaulay.
Macaulay. I'm like Michael, Macaulay.
Yep.
Okay. So, I am going for you who are suffering from compassion fatigue or know anyone or work in your organization and you know you can see that. If you're a leader and you now recognize that what you are feeling is compassion fatigue, get in contact with Judy Micale. So, Judy, thank you so much for appearing today's show. I knew it was going to be very interesting, very educational, because I had never heard of that.
Mhm.
I had never, ever heard of that. So now when I hear people, well, I'll say complaining, I'll use that term. I'm going to say, maybe you have compassion fatigue. And I have someone you need to talk to.
And it's really just feeling exhausted and tired, really
Yeah,
and truthfully. It
yeah.
really that's the biggest thing. If you're just feeling at the end of the day like
Oh, okay.
that's
Okay.
that's a big sign. Headaches, lack of appetite, all of those pieces can play into it as well. Um,
Okay.
but the majority of my team leaders, they're so into the throes of trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we got to pull back from that and let others, today I told somebody it's okay to take the training wheels off of the bike and let them skin their knee. It's okay. That's how we learn.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Judy.
Thank
And
you.
I really appreciate you coming on. So you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your evening because you are in Florida, the good part, and the nice sunny part. Yeah. All right. So take care.
Thank you. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
All righty. Bye bye.
Bye.
Well, this has been great. This has been great. So now I know that at some point in time, and a lot of points in time, I had compassion fatigue because I was like, for so many different reasons, working, being a leader, in my personal life, taking care of people, other people's drama that you get all the time, and I'm like I said, I'm not going to change the side of my bed, but I am going to try those things, and I'm urging you to try those things, especially when your mind is somewhere else. To try those things, just those little small things. Brushing your teeth with if you're right-handed, with your left hand or opposite, or just things that you do automatically. Do it a little different just to be in the now. So, well, anyway, this has been great. This has been great. I really want to thank all of you who have been watching my show. I really, really, really appreciate it. As a matter of fact, what do I have for you? Uh, Let me see this before I go. I'm giving you all of my heart. And I'm celebrating you because you do make a difference. You make a difference to me, and you make a difference to the guests on my show. So I will see you again next week on the Relationship Matters TV show. Remember, there are all kinds of relationships, all kinds of relationship matters. Life is all about relationships. So I will see you again next week. Bye bye.